Alright, this is segment 2 on the active voice, but we are doing a comprehensive introduction in order to understand the passive voice in its whole context of active, middle, and passive. So we're looking first at the middle voice. If I have the verb aireo, I take, and if I put it in the middle voice by using the endings, which you already know, aireomai, it would of course combine. There would be, I'm using the lexicon form of this verb. Aireo, I take. Aireomai, I choose, I prefer. Notice how in the middle voice, with these middle endings, that there's a little different meaning that is conveyed. Again, the subject is more involved in the action. Instead of just taking, is choosing, he is preferring. Or we have the verb anomemesco, I remind. And if we put it in the middle voice, anomemeskomai, I think there's a misspelling here, I remember. I remind, I remember. Notice how in the middle voice the subject is more involved. It's very similar in meaning, but it's not quite the same. I remind someone else, but I remember for myself in the middle voice. Apodidomi, I give away. Apo and didomi. But if I put it in the middle voice, apodidomai, I sell. Now, again, the subject is more involved in the action. He is receiving something from the giving away. He is selling something. So there's a difference in what the middle voice does to a verb. Epikaleo, I call on, I name. To call upon God, I might use the verb epikaleo. If I use the verb epikaleomai, I appeal to God. You notice again, there is more of a strengthening of the subject's involvement in the action. If I have the verb echo, I have or hold. We've learned this verb way back in chapter 2, one of the first verbs we learned. If we have it in the middle voice, echomai, omai e etai, ometha esta ontai. Remember those middle, in the present tense, they're both middle and passive endings. It's not only I have or hold, I cling to, I hold fast. Notice the middle voice has changed the idea. Kreno, I judge. Krenomai, I bring a lawsuit. Notice how there's much more involvement of the subject when we use the middle voice. Pao, I stop. I'm using this verb in its transitive sense. There is pao can also be used in an intransitive sense. I take a rest. I rest. In which case there cannot be a direct object, and that's what we call intransitive verbs. But if it can take a direct object, I stop. I stop someone. I stop you from going down the street, and because I want to talk to you. Then it's a transitive verb. If we have this verb in the middle voice, paomai, I cease. And this would be the intransitive meaning, actually. I stop, I cease. Pulaso, I guard. If we put this in the middle voice, Phalas omai, I am on my guard. I am watching. Notice that again, the subject is more involved in the action. in the middle voice. Dr. Wallace uses the term direct middle for the reflexive or indirect reflexive. As an example, Matthew 27, verse 5. And after he threw the money, the argoria, the silver, into the temple, he departed, and he left and departed, and kai ap elthon, and after he departed, he hanged himself. Up exato, middle voice, he hanged himself. Wallace and other grammarians would call this a direct middle. It's because it's reflexive. Acts 12:21, and on the appointed day, Herod dressed himself in royal robes, and after he took his seat, kathissos, I'm taking that participle, aorist participle, as temporal, and after he sat down upon the judgment seat, and then the sentence continues. But notice, indus amenos is a middle participle, an aorist middle participle that talks about him putting on himself, dressing himself. But these are easy to understand as direct middles, but there are also indirect middles. I want to stop and this video here, and I will continue with part 3.